Also, Meat Boy, before we go to break, I mean, it's going to be a decent little hiatus until Meat Boy MMA returns. I mean, it's going to be 6 solid weeks of no UFC, so it's tradition. The fight is around the corner. Meat Boy boxing question mark. Jake Paul taking on Anthony Joshua, and obviously that's not a sentence that most would have conjured, but it's happening December 19th. Anthony Joshua is a minus 1,300 favorite. Jake Paul is plus 700. He's coming in with a lot of belief. He thinks he's going to get this one done, and then I believe he said try and fight Tyson Fury in 2026. This is the state of boxing. Jake Paul is fighting Anthony Joshua, a real event. You've taken Jake Paul basically every fight, and essentially every fight he usually wins. So my question will be to you: are you consistent with picking Jake Paul, even as far as against Anthony Joshua?
I'm gonna be honest. I'm surprised DraftKings and every other gambling website hasn't banned your boy Meat because of how much I've hammered Jake Paul, and he's only lost once. It's just free tendies, and this is another free tendy in my opinion. You think Anthony Joshua is going to actually even punch him? No, this is a charade to gaslight his pheromone spray or something ridiculous. Um, Anthony Joshua is a he's a hack. If the money talks, he's gonna throw fights, guaranteed, most likely. There's no way it's so hard for me to believe this is a real fight. If this is a real fight, Jake Paul is effed, you guys. He is so effed. That's how confident I am. Where there's no way it's real. Jake Paul wins. It's like it's too obvious because it's like this is so scary and so sketch for the kid. We're like, dude, one punch could literally send him to the shadow realm. One punch, and like that's what makes it interesting. But it's like if you already know it's a script and these are grifters and these people, they can be bought out. It's boxing. It's a joke. Like you can't be a Timmy and follow the bait. Like Jake Paul wins, or it's close, and like it might actually be close. This should never be close in a million years if it was legitimate. This is like peak Mike Tyson fighting Jake Paul with 2 years of boxing experience. It makes no sense.
Yeah, and obviously Mike Tyson did fight Jake Paul. You mentioned the
Peak.
precursor peak. That
Yeah.
was not obviously the case, but either way, the dude keeps getting victories, allegedly. He did, Joshua, respond to the concerns of potential fight fixing. Is this all charade? Is this all WWE preordained? Typical boxing nonsense. He said, I understand the fans' concern, but this is the thing with Jake. They have got to start believing in him. They don't believe it because they're saying, how is he beating those guys? I'm here to tell you there's no stipulation in the contract where I have to take it easy on him. What do you make of Joshua's comments? Do you believe him that he's going to go out there, balls to the wall, treat this like any other boxing contest, and perhaps danger and damage and finish Jake Paul early and often? Or is this part of the narrative, part of the script, part of the hype building aspect of this charade? And despite what Anthony Joshua may claim, he's going to go out there and make this a pitter patter type contest.
I mean, how else are you gonna get anybody to buy your pay-per-view? Oh, it's rigged. You got me, guys. Buy my pay-per-view. No, he's got to sell the dream of Jake Paul's the real deal, which, by all respect, I do think Jake Paul is the real deal, but this is one fight that just no realm he should ever win. And it's very like you don't go from losing kind of bad to Tommy freaking fumbles to then beating Anthony Joshua. I'm sorry. You go from Tommy fumbles to 50-year-old or no, sorry, 70-year-old Mike Tyson. Like that kind of makes sense. But then you have Jake beating Anderson Silva, broken legs, broken arms, like he's also 50. Makes sense. Like he's not 30-year-old Anderson Silva on EPO and testosterone and everything else. And then you go to Tommy Fumbles, just like a kid from a reality TV show that kind of is trash at boxing, and you lose to him. Like, you've been grinding, bro. This guy doesn't even box. He hangs out with his girlfriend and causes drama on a reality TV show. Not like, but he has a boxing family, but he's still really bad. That was like his best fighter that he's ever fought to this day. And then he skips all the people that he probably should fight straight to the top. If Jake wins,
Yeah, I mean, I
it's
guess in
scripted.
between you.
If he doesn't, it's
Go,
not.
I'm
It's
sorry.
real.
Finish your point.
No, I was just saying, if Jake wins, it's absolutely scripted. If he loses, well, then it was real. Like, if he loses bad.
Yeah, yeah, fair points, 100%. I mean, the fights in between, the wins in between Nate Diaz, Mike Perry, Mike Tyson, and then most recently, obviously, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., who I guess you could argue is the first real boxer. At one point, he was a real boxer. Obviously, the last
One
five,
point.
10 years haven't demonstrated that. But you mentioned that Tommy Fumbles fight, and that was a fight that Jake Paul lost, right? So if that was his first most competitive contest against a real boxer, I just struggle to see a world where this fight against Anthony Joshua is going to go any different. But again, I think you nailed it. If it's scripted, if it's rigged, if it's all a show, if this is all theater, perhaps Jake Paul finds a way to get this one done and continue whatever the heck is happening. But at one point, I mean, there were legitimate websites ranking Jake Paul in the top 10, top 20, whatever it was of their professional boxing rankings. So if you're going to put him in real rankings and consider his contests as real fights, then I mean, I don't know. It's either everything in boxing is a sham and top to bottom this thing is scripted, or at a certain point, I mean, it seems as though Jake Paul is merging into the real boxing categories and real boxing conversations. So, in this one, if this is a real boxing contest, if that's a real thing, I think Anthony Joshua's going to smoke him. And unless there are some weird contract stipulations, he can't go as hard. He's not allowed to knock him out. We won't see the language, buried deep within the text. But unless there's something there to save Jake Paul, I don't see this fight being competitive. I see Jake Paul probably getting slept, and then maybe Jake Paul pivots back to more like influencer type stuff because according to him, I mean, he's still on his ascent to be like the actual best boxer of all time. Like that's what he's aiming for currently. So a setback against, arguably a top three, top five dude in the world, perhaps we'll have him reevaluate and pivot to more influencer stuff, go fight Andrew Tate style conversations as opposed to trying to be the best boxer in the world. So that's where I see this going. I see this being the end of the professional Paul story, the pivot the Paul pivot is happening, and I think he's getting smoked by Anthony Joshua. You're taking this as the charade continues, and if so, what's the logical conclusion? Because if you're going to beat Anthony Joshua, who's he beat next? Does he fight Usyk? Does he fight Tyson Fury? Is he the best boxer of all time? How far does this thing go?
He is the future of boxing as he and his organization has claimed already, and that's going to be the narrative. Is they're trying to save boxing. Like, think about this: who brings more value? Anthony Joshua, that nobody has that even knows what he sounds like, except for they've seen a few highlights, and then he like socked a mascot and went viral. Beyond that, like no one, like the normal casual person, like the hardcores, yes, of course they know him. But like 90% of the world knows Jake Paul. They don't know Anthony Joshua. You ask any casual that doesn't watch anything about combat, they go, "Oh yeah, Jake Paul." Who's Anthony Joshua? Like that's what they would say. So who's a bigger asset? You remember this is a business. This is not a actual sport in the end. And it's Jake's organization. Like Jake hired this guy to fight him. Like there's just so many conflicts of interest where it's just very hard for me to believe that Anthony Joshua's going to go 100%. If he goes 100%, then like I'm going to give credit where credit's due. Jake Paul is the biggest gangster of all time and an absolute lunatic. Because you got to think about this. It's like people already forgot. Everyone knows like Anthony Joshua knocked out light work to Francis
Exactly.
Ngannou. Would you? Nobody in their right mind that knows anything about Francis Ngannou would ever go, "Oh yeah, Jake Paul would smoke Francis Ngannou." No, nobody would ever say that. Nobody would ever say about Gypsy King. But for some reason, people think that maybe this is real, and that blows my mind.
Yeah, and to that point, if Jake Paul loses this fight, then if I'm wrong about the Paul pivot to influencer boxing, perhaps a call out of Francis Ngannou makes the most sense, right? Francis Ngannou, allegedly a PFL guy, Jake Paul, allegedly a PFL guy. Perhaps they strap him up as some sort of co-promotion pay-per-view MVP slash PFL. Jake Paul boxing Francis Ngannou in 2026. That to me kind of makes sense. And Jake Paul is crazy. I mean, the dude loves to attract a lot of hate. I think you and I would agree. He probably attracts if he attracts more hate than his brother, it's definitely not deserved because Jake Paul's out there always taking chances and I feel like has handled himself very well these last couple years when compared to his older brother. So respect to Jake Paul. I do think this is where the rubber meets the road though, and it'll be an interesting question. You mentioned, is boxing strictly a business? Is boxing a sport? Or is it both? I think that this weekend we'll find out that it is in fact both, at least to some degree. There's got to be a shred of integrity left in this game, and again, you and I are MMA dudes, right? So we're a little bit far from the boxing space. You asked the question, who knows Anthony Joshua? And you and I, we're casual boxing fans. I mean, I don't even know if we're fans of boxing, truthfully, but either way, I think that Joshua is known in the boxing circles for his win over Klitschko, right? 2017. This is like almost a decade ago at this point, but those wins were a big deal. He took out Joseph Parker. Then obviously he got smoked by Andy Ruiz, but that story of him losing to Ruiz and the fights versus Klitschko before that, I know those were a big deal in boxing circles. So Anthony Joshua, by no stretch, is has a lack of fans or notoriety, but definitely in the circles that we stay closer to, for sure. Jake Paul definitely more marketable in different areas for sure. But either way, Meat Boy, if you're taking Jake Paul, are you taking decision? There's no chance you're taking him to finish Joshua, right? Or is the contract language that sketchy?
Dude, that would be crazy if he finished Anthony Joshua. That would be awesome. Um, yeah, there's just no shot. There's no shot Jake wins this or anything, and I just feel like there's zero shot that we get a full-fledged committed Anthony Joshua. Like this isn't gonna be Francis versus the Carney King and like, oh, Francis kind of got lucky because the Carney was like, oh, this is easy. Like, dude, Francis is also a 260-pound freak and is a very athletic dude and comes from high level, UFC. Like he was the champ, right? Jake Paul's was not a champ of the UFC of combat in general. He's just been boxing. He's been grinding. He's good for what he is. But like, dude, he's about to fight the one of the goats of heavyweight. Like that's just it's just hard for me to believe that this could ever be real. And I always pick Jake, and I'm picking Jake again because it's so rigged. There's no way they let him lose, because there's zero benefit if he loses.
So again, there's no world where he finishes Anthony Joshua. So are you telling me that Jake Paul picks up a decision over Anthony Joshua?
It has to be. It's either that or he
Jake
gets a
Paul.
DQ. That's the rigged. That's the
Ooh,
super rigged.
there
That's
you go.
and
DQ
that
is
would make
actually
more
interesting.
sense. That would make more sense.
That's actually good.
Because
I do like
it's a
that.
win-win for both. You don't have to be embarrassed, Anthony Joshua, for taking an L by getting knocked out by Jake Paul, but also Jake Paul, it's more believable for Jake to win like that.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I mean, I obviously think at minus 1300, there's nothing to mess around with. I mean, the uncertainty, the rigged factor, whatever the case may be, Jake Paul events are strange, to put mildly. So there's nothing Anthony Joshua money line. I think he's going to get this one done. I think he probably finishes Jake Paul, but the DQ Jake Paul idea, I think there could be some life to that. That is fascinating. I think it's the only pathway, though. There's no chance he wins a decision. There's no way he sleeps Joshua. So I think Jake Paul by DQ is the only 2% pathway, but I'm going to say that this fight plays out very similar to Conor versus Floyd, where they say, some argue that Floyd let Conor compete throughout those first few rounds, really sort of slow down everything to allow Conor to help contribute to the putting on of a show. I think perhaps Joshua gives Jake Paul a couple rounds to mess around and essentially spar with. Ultimately, however, he'll turn the gas on, and I think he finishes Jake Paul. But Jake Paul cuts a successful promo afterwards and is quick with the fact that he lasted twice as long, three times as long perhaps, as Francis Ngannou, who didn't even make it through 2 rounds versus Joshua. So I say Jake Paul gets finished, but in a later round, and then he angles for I'm a tougher dude because I lasted 3 times as long as Francis Ngannou, and that's what we get Mega Fight 2026. So you're officially going JP by DQ or JP by decision?
JP by DQ, and like to be fair, do you think there's any world where uh Anthony Joshua doesn't get a knockout? Like, is it even possible for Anthony Joshua to win by decision?
Yes, I can see a world where this fight goes the distance
Well,
if,
or
in
sorry,
fact, Joshua is not, trying to go for the finish. I think that if Joshua wants to finish this fight, he will finish this fight.
okay.
If, however, there's some sort of language that protects Jake Paul, then perhaps this fight does go the distance. I don't think it's insane to pick Joshua by decision at all. But I think that if he's trying legitimately and this is a real contest, I would struggle to see a world where Jake Paul lasts the entire contest.
Yeah, so legit if he doesn't last, not legit if he does last, even if Anthony wins by decision. That's kind of where I'm at. It's like yo, if Anthony wins by decision, like that in itself is rigged. Like that just doesn't make any sense. And like maybe he tried, but he didn't try to knock him out or finish him. You know?
Exactly. That's what the key aspect would be.
Yeah.
And these dudes are the highest of high level. I don't know how they could create a contest where they are pulling punches and not going for a finish, so to speak, but these dudes are the top performers of their game, so I'm sure they would know how to compete in that regard if they were trying to. But either way, meat boy, it's a tradition. We always got to break down Jake Paul's contests, and I'm surprised. I don't want to say I'm impressed by the fact that you're taking him because I think this one is inexcusable. I honestly am I'm flabbergasted, but also I guess low key slightly impressed that it's not yeah, you're not what do they say? It's don't fix it if it's not broken, right? I mean, you like you said, have essentially been banned off all major platforms for your activity in betting on Jake Paul. So I applaud you for taking this to a new extreme and taking him to take out Anthony Joshua.
He's definitely taking him out. It's rigged. You heard it here first. Smash me, subscribe.